Well, welcome back to this latest episode. This should be episode C12. Still working on the bulkhead. I've only literally just sent live the video for the two corners, so you're catching up with me. Couple of things that were slightly amusing over the last couple of weeks. The project Clanger, the 109, got a mention in Land Rover Owners International. It was literally Clanger 109. That was the extent of the mention. An article written by, I think her name is Vicky Turner. We follow each other on Instagram, and she just thought it was a funny name for a vintage Land Rover. The article is all about the characters the Land Rovers have now become. So that was a bit amusing. So that fame at last, it lasted for less than 24 hours, and I don't even think we got to a newsprint for wrapping fish and chips. What else has happened? Well, the internet connection for the home address here has been upgraded. What that means is if I put a 30-minute video up in 720p, which is fine on a phone, it would take somewhere in the region of about 9 or 10 hours to upload, providing there was no blips in service, and then it'd have to start again. Anyway, we've just got connected. We're now within 100 yards of the end of the fibre optic cable that they've brought to the village, and we've now got about 35 megabytes per second. To put that into context, the last episode, which was 35 minutes, took 35 minutes to upload. I'm staggered. Yeah, new one for me. And the upload speed is, I think it's 9 megabytes per second. We were working at, on a good day, just under 0.9. So yeah, that's going to make things a bit easier. What it does open the door for, if there's any interest in it, is a live chat session. Perhaps not all that relevant for the Land Rover stuff, but maybe if somebody wants to have a chat about scraping or Land Rovers, leave us a comment below, down there, and we'll see if we can organise something, if there's interest. I'm not going to bother doing it if they're not, because I'm sure you've got better stuff to do than watch me waffle on. Yeah, so enjoy this week's episode. Cheers. So that's the two corner pieces held in with two screws and a clamp on the back. I'm going to take them down, clean up all the joints ready for welding them up, put them back in, check all the alignment, and then I'm going to tack them up there to here. I've sat that one just a touch higher. I mean, it's about 1 millimetre higher. Doesn't matter, because when I come to fit the piece that's making up this guttering, I'll lose it anyway. I mean, I can just feel the difference. Might be 0.5 mil or something like that, so I don't think it's an issue. Sorry for the wandering about. I'm trying to get you a decent shot. So yeah, basically I want to get those two tacked in, and then take the whole 3 parts off, clean up the sections that are remaining of the back face, and get some rust treater on it. And while I'm at it, once this is off, I can seam down each side. I might do it in situ actually, yeah, to seam it down each side and then take it off, and then I'll rust treat the inside of this at the same time as doing the other one. Well, that'll be my job for the rest of the weekend, I think. Alrighty. This is the top of the A-pillar, as you'll recognise with the curve, and the fixings for the screw come off that side. I've cut it off like that because I wanted to see what the door stay is like, which is there. And as you can see, I've just peeled this bit back because it's not welded to that. What it's welded to is that reinforcing strut, and you can see it isn't a 90-degree bend, but you can also see that stress fracture. I want to clean this up and just see if I think it's just tacked on to this side. Same crack in the corner there. So I'll have to fabricate up something as to simulate that, and then they'll need tacking in. Now, I might as well show you on the side that's relevant. So for all intents and purposes, it sits there here. So that bracket has got to be sat in there. Yeah. So it's going to be easier welding it in now than once it's all attached to that. As is typical, so that's 2mm thick, best I can establish on the slightly rusty faces. I've got 3mm and I've got 1.5mm. 3mm seems a bit overkill, and I'm not sure I can get it bent round there. But 1.5mm seems a bit lightweight, and I can't think of an easy way of strengthening it. I mean, I'm going to put these gussets probably full width, which will help. So I think I'll do that at 1.5. I just don't fancy, well, we'll try one out of 3 and we'll see if we can bend it round a 90 degrees. Here's a conundrum then. So that's the bracket for the door stay, and that's just my reproduction of it. It's made in 2mm. I've gone up a mil because it's all I've got, so I'm not going to bother putting on the flanges around the edges. Anyway, when you look at it, it's, apart from being very slippy, it's not bent at 90 degrees, it's past 90, yeah, and it fits basically perpendicular to that face and 90 parallel to that face. That being the front valance, that being the internal skim, so that's where it will fit, yeah. In there. Now, when I copied the internal support bracket, which is that bit, that angle looked to be 90 degrees, and yet if it is, when my little bracket fits in there, yeah, it's got to weld onto that face like that. I've tried to match, I might be a few degrees out, but I'm trying to work out, instead of it being off 90, to actually just knock it back and make it 90, because I can't see why it would be made less than, other than to kind of compensate for the pull of the door. So it's not trying to open it up past 90. So if you can imagine, the door swings open, catches the wind, and the girlfriend drops her handbag and everything goes to pot. What it's going to be trying to do is pull this way. So if your bracket's in there like that, sorry, like that, it's trying to open that gap up, and maybe that's providing a bit of a spring, and that would explain why it's got the stress cracks down the apex of those bends. But it does mean that as you clamp up the screws on it, it's going to distort the inside panel. Now when the problem is I haven't got one that's in good nick, because if you look at the end of that, that's just been absolutely mashed. But even so, that bracket is still bent past 90 degrees, and you can see that face, which is the that was the internal skin, but that face is parallel to the front valance. So it's a bit of a conundrum, that. I think I'm going to eke it, sort of do a compromise and bend it halfway between the two. We'll see how that goes. Well, I've been scratching my head about this for 24 hours now. If I fix this corner before I fix the bracket in there, it makes fixing the bracket in there, from a welding point of view, an absolute nightmare. because it's got to go somewhere like that, and it's welded on that back face there, or I should say it's fixed on that face in there, yeah. And then there's three holes on through this section here, which pick up those 3 holes. So I was musing on, dig it out, and I've just stuck it in. Do I now, before I go any further, cut this panel out back and round and fit the new piece, which then actually gives me the curve there, which is also the curve that fits onto the pillar. I've got a location here off the middle, which I'm reasonably okay with. I can also fit this corner piece that sits inside this position, albeit this isn't actually that bad, so I'm not sure I'm going to replace all that. Anyway, what I'm basically saying is I've got a datum here now, which is fixed off the front. If I fit this panel here, it gives me the rest of the datums down here to then drop the leg down and away I go. However, that's my self-tapper holding in the front valance and locating it, and that had come out when I take that, which means then I'm back to skyhooks and, you know, other than the clamp along this edge. It also means I've got to relocate this temporarily whilst I fit the new panel, and then that can be used again. So I am getting to the point where I'm thinking now's the time to stitch this on. So whip it off now, do the painting on the inside of this face and the inside of that face, and then tack weld through so that the valance is then pinned up here and pinned along that edge. Just in so much as that gives me a one section that's in and done. These bits will still be removable, so I can weld the bracket on. Once I've fitted this bit, I can mark on where my holes are going to go easily, and I've got then the datum for the footwell, so that I can actually fit the footwell once the bracket's done. There's not actually any reason why I couldn't take the footwell off, I don't think, at that point. Certainly if I just put a couple of brackets off here to give me some datum lines down. So I'm thinking that might be my plan, because I am getting to the stage where I need to actually start fixing bits back on it to hold it together. Discussion with Anthony last week was, you know, that bit goes on once you've got these 2 bits done, and ideally your footwell's on so that nothing's going to further twist. And then, you know, at that point I've pretty much done it. I've got to replace that face, same on that side, then the footwells and the A-pillars, and the A-pillars go in before the footwells, and the footwells go in before that. So that's effectively the sequence. Anyway, I have plenty of time to pontificate on it for the next couple of weeks. Well, I've had to invert the whole unit because I couldn't get in from the top side to weld that in, which is the underside of the front valance. Going through the top, I'd got 3 layers, 2 old and 1 new, and without drilling a much bigger hole, which then needed much, you know, basically it weren't working. So I modified the torch over to stubby back. Thank you to a subscriber for sending me the little stubby back cap. And then yeah, it ain't brilliant. I've got a few half decent attempts at a seam, but anyway, it's on. So that's now stitched along this section underneath the window and under there. So I can take these 2 screws out, and now I can start working on these panels. I'm not welding those in just yet because I want to make sure that I get those in and then everything matches up, and then we'll seam down there and we'll seam that edge to the new one that's going in at the back, and then we're going to be getting ready to do the A-pillars. I'll be honest with you, I want to get these off, because every time I walk past the things, I'm snagging myself on them. And it's going to be a lot easier doing it whilst it's inverted. But I can't take them off just yet, because the only thing giving it any sort of rigidity at that bottom end. Right. Well, that's best part chopped out now. So top the footwell off so I can get my lip in. I've got to be careful because that piece goes all the way round to there, and it's like a stiffener. And I need to take off, I think, this bit, which was part of this face, and leave that upturn. And then obviously the bits down there on the sandwich, the lowest piece. So you got the bit I'm replacing, which is this. Then you got the footwell, and then on the top you got the stiffener. Anyway, cup of tea time. I'll let that cool down before I start grinding away on that bit. And then I've got to decide how I'm going to joint it to this. It would be nice to do it with a butt welder down there, rather than trying to do another lap weld and making that so bloody thick, and another water trap. Right, so that's, I've tacked it and then gone back over it and then filled in the gaps. I had a bit of a burn through there and there, so I'm going to clean that off and see what it looks like underneath. I don't think that's bad. Bit of holes, not many though. And that's probably the worst bit there. That's gone on. It's on and it's not crunching and groaning, it's still a bit warm. Yeah, I've got to leave, that's my gap there, that the footwell goes in and sits underneath this lip, so that'll get sealed up then. Not entirely sure what I've done there, whether that hole's slightly over or not. It's lined up. This is lined up with the original seam. I've got a bit of buggering about to do here. You see that? Yeah. So I'm just getting to a stage where I can tack this part to that part. So I'm going over rechecking all the alignment and everything. My distances are good from there to the centre each way. Only thing that's bothered me is when I've tacked this on here and welded this on, that panel has distorted a degree. Now, it's not the end of the world, but I had hoped to get it a little bit flatter than that. You put your eye down the whole thing, you can get an idea of where it is. So, yeah, not great, but not bad for an amateur. Anybody's guess what'll happen when I weld that piece in, but we'll have to wait and see. I need to do some cleaning up of this now, so that because it's a lot easier access while this piece is off. And the other bit I've lined up to shift the jig. Should have made it on wheels. That's the interior corner. Yeah. So that needs seaming round. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do this one yet, because I've got to cut. I haven't cut the piece out that it's replacing, so I'm going to try and scribe it round and grind to within 1/8 of an inch, and that gives it just a little bit more meat, and then that bit gets welded to that. But it's got to sit up a little bit yet, you see. And then that design feature, as Anthony explained, then needs filling with weld. So that's going to be entertaining. But yeah, we're getting there now. It's getting a lot more rigid now that that is welded to that, and that is welded to the front valance. Obviously this bit's not much better. So then I want to get these, like to get that stitched in, so that basically all of that corner, the front valance and that, become one. Got a bit of grinding back here to match the flange, drill the holes, fit the bracket, and then I've got to decide then whether I go ahead and do the other side to match, or whether I fit the pillar. I might do the other side to match whilst it's fresh in my mind. That's going to really bug the crap out of me, because the other side, I don't know if you can see it, nice and straight. It looks worse there, and as I say, that's just where those spot welds have gone in. So my assumption is it welds it, and then as it cools, it pulls back. But why it would distort this way, I don't know. Anyway, like I say, it's not the end of the world, and I'm not going to fill it. They're not known for being particularly flush, and the bulkheads, there's always a bit of a ripple. Right, better rippled than rusted though. So I'm just messing about with the drilling the holes for the door stay heat bracket, so it fits in there, and then there's a triangular piece of bracket with a couple of arms out of it and a pin. I'm actually going to order a pair of these bracket retaining strap things then before I weld the nuts on the inside of that. I can actually set the thing up, drill these out so that everything lines up. So I've just got a fear that if I weld nuts on the back, fit it all gets buried in there, and then I come to fit the bloody piece and it don't match up because the hole centres are slightly adrift, and you end up crossing threads and whatever. I've drilled the holes to mount that bracket onto that, so that worst case comes to it, I could actually take it out, but it's a bit of a wrestle. Anyway, a reason for the little clip. So this is the new part that's fitted on the inside face, and that'll come. That's the penetration from the other side, so I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, got to say it's quite nerve-wracking when you're chopping big lumps out. So prepping up for doing the internal skin above the driver's footwell. So same thing applies. The skin stitched on at the top here, runs down, and then has a small return that sits underneath the bulkhead, the footwell. So you can see the previous skin. So I've got to nibble that off, leave the footwell so that I've got a position. Piss about with this bit here, and then I'll probably seam it straight the way up there and just trim it to fit. What else? And it butts up to this section here, so I've left the corner piece in situ. So yeah, as supplied. Yeah, I mean, I was sitting down, but this flange should be coming this way and wrap around the inside of that and then weld it on from the outside. I'm not going to do that. I'm literally going to trim it down here and do the same as I've done here. I don't see the advantage of folding it around the inside, not least because it means unstitching a section which is pretty damn good anyway, just so it looks original, and you know, who's going to see it? Yeah, right. I've got to clean up round here, clean up this edge a bit, so it'll take a weld, and then the rest of it's sorting out this section and removing the bulkhead, the footwell top from that stiffening piece. I've drilled through what I can find in the way of spot welds, but I want to take all that back so that all I'm left with is that thin skin on top, and then that should, because it's not going to be very easily accessible once I get moving. So that's the inside of the driver's side. The panel's gone on. Not the neatest of welds. Just got a couple of holes to fill in. I need to tick down that. A couple of there. I need to just finish off the tack down the end here. But it's on. Stiffened it all up again. So that's those two pretty much done now. Got to dress now the outside corner, make sure that's right. And then we'll be looking at the A-pillars.